we've got Brentford, then we've got Brighton, and then United and Spurs, and we'll stop at Villa. If Declan Rice is out for 3 weeks, are you not nervous? Like, when would you start to get nervous? Because there's no Rice, so that means you've got what? Jorginho, you've got Moreno, you've got Partey, and Partey's been playing right back, and any of these guys, especially Partey, could get injured. At what point do you start getting nervous then?
I feel like once we get into the knockouts of the Champions League, and if he's not available for them games, then because we need him for City, Liverpool, those games. Those are the games where I feel like you have to have Rice. I feel like our performances in those games against those teams have went up significantly, and now that he's available for those games. But I'm looking at these fixtures, and obviously, like, Brentford is such a funny team because they are so bad away from home, but they are like Liverpool at Anfield
We
at
need
home.
him there, just we need
Yeah,
Rice.
we'll need him
Them
there.
2 weeks, these 4 weeks, we're gonna need him. I'm not gonna lie, we're gonna need him.
Yeah. So hopefully he's ready. I think he will be, though. I think they're just protecting him, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. But I think he'll be available. And like, people were saying we don't need him, and he's holding us back. So y'all should be
Anyone
excited.
saying that's crazy, man? Declan Rice, out of all the issues, if anything's holding us back, it's because the man's not playing as a six. We have still not replaced Granit Xhaka. We still don't have a left-hand side. We still ain't got that winger that's even 50% of Saka, let alone a striker, let alone better depth. And these are not things that just me or you lot haven't said. These are not things to the outside world that we've stumbled across within these 16 games. Even the creativity and open play in terms of personnel or what we're seeing tactically. Do you think Lewis Skelly should be given a chance in that left eight?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't see that left eight is such
It's still
a
open
weird
season.
positions that I would want to see Ethan there. I'd want to see MLS there. I feel like there's room to try to. The only players I don't want to see there are like Trossard. I don't want to see him there anymore. But yeah, why not? MLS has. I feel like that position requires somebody with a little bit of get up and go with their passing, and somebody that's not afraid to be on the ball and make things happen. And he has that about him. So yeah, I would love to see him in that position. I'd love to see Ethan in that position. I am dying for us to just buy another midfielder.
Jess, I'm a broken
I'm tired of
record.
this.
I'm happy you said that, because it's nice that someone else is on my platform waffling about needing an eight. Like, we've been knowing this. Like, since me and you have probably even started doing content together, we've been knowing this. And I actually feel that's something that has kind of indirectly kind of shot Declan Rice, and more so Mikel Moreno, because no disrespect, Moreno, I don't think you're a long-term eight. I don't think you're a level raiser. I think you're a squad player or floor raiser. But then we're doing this thing where we're taking squad players, trying to make them regulars and acting surprising, which, okay, I'll tell. If you said he's an eight, he's an eight. But when Moreno isn't necessarily looking silky on the ball and all of these things, ultimately not doing something that he hasn't, the criticism, it feels like it's self-inflicted. Speaking of criticism, I want to get into this Mikel Arteta stuff. He said a bunch of things, and I'll read them out. And then at the end, let me know how you feel around this period. Mikel Arteta said on criticism, we deserved to win the last 6 games by a mile. Then there's another sentiment where, again, when asked about our reliance on set pieces, that's always the narrative. When you score 5 goals, then another 5 and another 3, you're not going to talk about it. When you don't score a goal, you're going to come back to it. That's normal. That's the narrative. But for us, it doesn't change. We want to improve regardless if we score 3 or 5 goals. Even though we didn't concede anything on Saturday, there are still things defensively I want to do better. It doesn't change our work. What else have we got? Following the Everton game, he said, I'm very disappointed not to win because we fully deserved to win the game. We conceded no shots on target. We dominated direct play. We did all the right things up to the last 20 meters. And then you look at our XG. What do you make of that, Jess? Because for me, every time we don't create, that's going to be the issue. You can have all the statistics. You need to put the ball in the back of the net. These are not new problems, but you're the guest. I want to know what you feel about that.
Arteta is really good at like talking around things, and he always has a good excuse, or like not excuse, but a good answer or a reason after games to try to rationalize. Because I don't think that he's saying these things to the public and then going into the locker room and saying, yeah, but actually, I don't believe none of that. I actually really do think that he needs to make the players believe that they're doing the right things and that they just need to be 5% better in the final third, which, if we're honest, that's the truth. Whether you deserve to win when you win the game. I think it's very rare that you deserve to win something that you don't.
But this is a
right?
regular theme, Gaffer, you know, like
Yeah, I
once
think
or twice, yeah, but this is a regular theme.
for sure. I think the team that scores the most goals deserves to win, but does that mean that you're the better team? No. Those are two completely different things. You can be the better team and still lose. And I think that's kind of what's been happening with us is that we have been dominant, but once we get into the final third, we just look bereft of any sort of ideas. And um,
Facts.
it's just a matter of whether or not we decide to attack or not. If we're going to hold on to the ball for dear life because we're afraid to lose it, or if we're going to do like what we did in the second half. I saw Timber dribble through the middle, lose it, and we want it back. I haven't seen him do that in weeks, but it's like we're so afraid to take those risks that we just don't do it. And I think we just need to take more risks in the final third. And, I know it's up to the manager to get you there and then you do you know what you can do, but I do think Arteta coaches us within an inch of a life, and I have a very
Mm.
hard time believing that he's telling them to be creative and just express themselves and they're just not doing it. I think that you need to loosen the reins just a wee bit because you're
Just
afraid
a
of
little
any.
bit, just a
Yeah,
tiny bit, Arteta.
because I think Arteta is afraid of any team that has a counter-attacking threat. The way that we set up and the way that we played against Man United at home, it was like Rashford wasn't even on the pitch, but he was scared of Rashford. We were passing so slow and so, and it was like they
And the
ain't got
minute Zinni got
nothing.
a yellow card, safe off. Like,
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think Arteta has some scars from getting counterattacked against and conceding those goals. But at some stage, we need to back ourselves that even if you scored that goal that Mateta scored, we're gonna respond and we'll beat you 4-1. You know, and I think that he tries to keep it down so much that he keeps our attacking potential to a minimum sometimes.
so do you think he's too stubborn then?
I mean, yeah, I think Arteta's hard-headed. I do. I think he sticks with things too long. I think he makes the same mistakes over and over, and we see that, and we talk about it multiple times. But I say that he's like 90% of things that he does is good, but the 10% are the difference between us winning things or not. So that's why they're massive.
I would
And
say
so
98%, you know, it's the 2%. It's those small margins going
yeah,
into this season. Like we spoke about this, Jess. It's the if this season was an album, like from an artist, it would be titled Fine Margins. And for me, it's self-inflicting issues, whether we talk about the market, the lack of the playing squad, the conversation we have around young players. You know, a lot of Arsenal fans hid behind the fact of, oh, people said we needed a striker. Havertz has gone up front. We scored more goals last season than the year before. When you broke it down, bare set pieces, Bukayo Saka, which I'm not begrudging none of that.
Bukayo.
If Bukayo isn't scoring, we're in problems because he's the only one that did it for half the season. Corners are great. You know, the set piece coach probably deserves another deal. When the set pieces aren't going in, we're in trouble. And there's been occasions we can create chances, we can score goals. I do think a bit of it is mentality because there's been games like yesterday where in the second half, we've been a lot more kind of free flow. I do like the fact that Arteta overthinks. But goals win games. Putting the ball in the back of the net is the most difficult thing, and there needs to be a different solution. A bit like check out Jess's channel. We did a stream before. She was saying how she's obviously, and I agreed that Tierney's not the guy anymore. But there might be times where you just want your left back to overlap and take someone with you, and they're the kind of things. And I'm not gonna lie, for me, that's why I asked you for your thoughts with that. I think it, and I'm not saying it's wrong. I think it's a bit snooty from Arteta. I think it's a bit arrogant. I think it's a bit ignorant. I think it's a bit, well, I'm playing my kind of way. Now, if we play the exact same way and we start scoring goals, great. But people are starting to clock us. They know mid blocks, low blocks, no space, a bit more switching on the corners, lock down the right hand side. We are in issues from that. We're
Mhm.
open book. Not that's not even me being negative. We have earned that right from being arguable the second best team the last 2 years. Naturally, teams are going to do their homework. So
Yeah.
I need Arteta to fix this because Jess, like you look at half our attackers, yeah, me and you could have a big conversation about half of them. But if they're all struggling apart from Saka, if we flip it, is it all on them or is it Sam with the gaffer?
Yeah, I think so. And I saw a super chat come through and they're talking about the defenders. And I'm just like, but we're not talking about the defenders. Our defensive solidity now that because we've gotten better defensively recently, because in the beginning of the season we're giving up more soft goals.
I
But
think you're even being kind. I still don't believe we got back to it, but I
yeah,
agree
I
broadly.
feel like we're not giving up as many chances. I would say at the
Yeah.
beginning of the season we were giving up more chances than we're used to. Right now it's not about Calafiori and Zinchenko and them being out. We created a lot of chances in the second half against Crystal Palace at home with freaking Tierney and Timber and Kivior and obviously Saliba came in. So I think
Raheem Sterling on the right hand side, bro.
we're making
Teeny
a
as well.
lot of excuses about, but the defenders are out, but the defenders out, but the defenders are out. I'm talking about the games where we are locked in their half and we are passing it sideways and not
The
trying to
last two Premier
penetrate.
League games Jess is referring to, if you want to
Yeah,
just keep it brief with that.
yeah, I'm very like, I get that we've had injuries, but it's not like we've had so many injuries where it makes sense that we can't create more than 0.03 chances, against Fulham. That's what I'm saying. And like, so I get the injury argument, but we are so beyond that. I feel like our main issue, the stubbornness, comes from Mikel being afraid to lose the ball. So we do this patient thing instead of really trying to be aggressive and scoring goals. And the stark difference between Everton, the stark difference between, yeah, the entire Everton game and the 45 minutes against Crystal Palace is like so beyond personnel. I don't know how people can't see it. We played a worse lineup against Crystal Palace and played so much better in that second half than anything we did against Everton. So
Even the second half against Fulham, to a degree, was two different sides. So it's there mentally. And
yeah,
unpopular opinion, I want Arteta to be stubborn. Obviously, it's an impossible job as a manager. You've got to find that fine balance between being a stubborn prick and changing things. Every manager is stubborn. At the end of the day, I'm not gonna lie, rightly or wrongly. If I lose my job, it is because of me. I want to play football how I want to play football. He should be stubborn. So one love for the super chat, Nabil, as well. And I do hear you to a degree.
yeah,
Ben White being injured, Tommy, Calla, and Zinni being out are obviously issues. But I even talk about Thomas Partey. I think Thomas Partey, I don't want to see him at right back, but I think it's one where you panic a lot more on paper than what you see. But I think these things are cop-outs. And I do think there's times where we should have gone for it. Of course, if we went for it against Fulham and we lost the game 2-1 rather than drawn, and the same against Everton, there's
yeah.
issues. And we got to remember, yeah, it's very different. But Mikel Arteta, bro, you used to play for Arsenal where 9 times out of 10, it's low blocks. It's low blocks. We can't break them down. We never even had corners them times. We'd have possession.
Yeah.
There's self-inflicted issues in the team. I love what Arteta is doing, but I have to be honest, man. Arteta always wants to prove people wrong, and that's holding us back. I hear it. What is carrying the ball anyway? It's not a dribble. I'm not sure what that is. Partey playing right back over Timber affects our attack. I'm not sure what that's in reference to what
Yeah.
Mio just
I
said.
think that they're kind of like discussing like the Partey playing at right back. And I do think Partey playing right back impacts us, but nothing impacts us more than when we don't pass the ball quickly, when we don't try to access central spaces, and we're not brave. Nothing impacts us more than that. Nothing. Like,
Where you at?
nothing is worse than that.
I want to ask you as well before I let you get out of here. I'm gonna ask Jess this question. I'm gonna see a couple of questions because we're gonna let her go. We're running over. What do you feel about Odegaard playing as an 8? Because I've said this before, and I love where he's playing now. I think you rob Odegaard of probably some goals of assists and a consistent link up with Saka and him. But I think you give the team a lot more. Him being deeper. You need obviously someone that is creative like Odegaard to play in his role. But I feel where you lose that, the team gets greater impetus. But where would you be at with it?
Yeah, I feel like that little gif of like that guy standing up in front of the town hall to say his little piece. But I'm so sorry. Odegaard is a fabulous player. He's my favorite player in the team, but I wouldn't go so far to say he's been misprofiled, but the way that he's developed as a player at Arsenal, he is not a 10. He is an 8 and he has a lot of responsibilities. And when he scored the 15 and 15, I was like, when he goes back down to the mean next season, it's going to look ugly because people are going to expect you to maintain a vibe that you've introduced them to, but that's not that was everything was flying in the back of the net. You're not going to replicate that every single time. And so,
He's even been poor in terms of goal scoring
oh,
this season, if I'm
100%.
honest.
He's
But
like
he's
even
been in some
underperforming.
positions.
Yeah, he's been underperforming. I think with Odegaard, to me, he's the pass before the pass. He's
Yeah.
fabulous. But he's not ever going to be your Kevin De Bruyne. And I think as Arsenal fans, we are so obsessed with Man City. We need to rid ourselves from the identity of City and feeling like we need to have the same players in those positions. Oh, well, Odegaard needs to be our Kevin De Bruyne and Declan Rice needs to be our Rodri. Not only are those players one of one, but you're not going to beat City doing City shit. And I know City's not in the title race right now, or like they're looking bad, but we feel like we need to replicate what they're doing. We need
Oh,
to
we are
do
replicating them. Both teams falling off a cliff this season, man.
pretty much.
They must be linked.
We need to have our own vibe. And I think this team would look so much better if Odegaard could drop deeper and play a little bit more like he did yesterday, which if you look at where he was picking up the ball, he was picking it up in deep spots and also playing the ball quickly between the lines. If you do that, but then the other player on the other side is maybe more of like the attacking midfielder, I feel like that would fit us a little bit better, because then you'd get those goals and assists that people are looking for. I don't know who that player is, because there's no other Kevin De Bruyne. I don't know how much, like, I swear, you guys, like, always looking for another Kevin. He's a one of one.
He's one of
You'll
one,
never find another player. But could we find somebody that gives us a little bit more attacking, impetus on that side? Probably, and that's probably what we need. But I don't know if Arteta will ever get to the stage where he'll play Odegaard as the 8 and the left 8 as the 10 and just play with a regular 6. I don't know if he'll ever get to that stage.
Yeah, I don't think he'll ever do that.
Yeah, in those deeper positions, that guy is special in those deeper positions, and he just happens to be able to do some 10 stuff. But that guy is an 8. Like, he is an 8.
He's Wonder God. He's the class region. He's the closest. Again, I don't think he'll ever be better than Mesut Ozil, but he's the closest thing I am seeing to Mesut Ozil within this Arsenal team. I think there's two ways about it, especially what you just said with your example. This is going to sound mad. If we could have, especially in the modern day, in terms of that numbers, someone that just purely got Bruno Fernandes's style kind of numbers. Definitely not how he plays, but that kind of numbers with Odegaard or a Cole Palmer, just allowing him to go deep, and we'd be a lot better. Two questions for you before I let you get out of here, Jess. Why is Sterling being forced to play right wing? He's better than Martinelli and Trossard in the left wing position. And then there was something else earlier about Sterling getting 10 goals. Let me find it. But yeah, that's the first question.
I feel like it's because he's just basically taken Reece Nelson's position, and Reece Nelson was even better on the left, but Arteta played him on the right. True. Literally, this player is brought in to relieve Saka of having to play in early stages of the cup rounds. And I think that's why he's playing there. He can play there, but it's not his optimal position. And right now, he is behind Martinelli